Mike Brennan, we're back again for another edition of MITech TV. Now, as some of you may not know, we don't do this show live anymore for a variety of reasons, but we do record it live, and we're recording it live on October 14th. And I have with us once again Richard Stiennon, longtime friend. The cybersecurity pro, goes all the way back to his RustNet days when he was one of the original ISPs in Michigan. And so that's when I first met him, when I was at the Free Press covering technology. I met Richard, and we were talking to Terry before we started. Him and I even did a novella back in 2011, cybersecurity novella. So it was fun, a lot of work. So let's talk a little bit about all the hacks out there. And it's like as I was saying to Richard before we started, they just don't seem to let up. So you got the Gorilla Bot active on 300,000 endpoints. What's that all about?
Yeah, so it's yet again, let me just go back to explain how these denial of service botnets work. So the attackers, usually for financial reasons, create a large collection of hosts that they've taken over that can send network traffic. And the Mira bot was one of the more famous ones because it was the biggest. And it was just some kids playing games, online games, and they wanted to slow down their adversaries' response times. So they captured, hundreds of thousands of nanny cams, and they all delivered packets to the adversary. So it slowed them down. So anyways, this new bot, the Gorilla bot, has 300,000 devices under its control, a lot of IoT devices. So these could be cameras, it could be, whatever you have that's connected to the internet. And of course, they're unpatched. They use standard default passwords that the hackers know. So they slowly capture all those. You never interact with those devices, so you don't know that they've been infected. And then either for money, or in this case, it appears to be kind of politically motivated, they just take this massive fire hose that they can create and they'll take down a website. So very, very disturbing if you are the victim of that, if you're the target. And it's very disruptive, right? There's one going on right now against the Internet Archive, which is, super important resource for researchers. The Wayback Machine you might have used that shows you websites, what websites looked like years ago. That's been down for a long time, days. And that's a nonprofit. They can't afford to pay Akamai or Cloudflare what they need to stay up.
Wow, that's fascinating. So they can just direct that traffic anywhere, shut something down for a period of time, and virtually hold you hostage, as
Yeah,
it were.
yeah. Oh, quite often there are extortion demands along with it. I haven't heard of any with GorillaBot. It's
Wow.
the one part of the criminal side of cybercrime, of cyber anything, that feels a lot like science fiction and space lasers, stuff like that. And there's even one of the original was open source and used in a lot of political dissent cases, like during the Arab Spring. It was quite commonly used. The elections in 2009 in Iran, and it was called the low Earth ion cannon, LOIC. And this is freeware. You just download it, install it, and then you just type in an IP address, and you will do various types of attacks. And that's one of the things about GorillaBot. It's got some new sophisticated attacks in it. But some of those are, just reloading a web page over and over and over. That can stop the web server if a million people are doing it.
Are we being irresponsible by telling people this? I'm kind of curious. We get some nefarious listeners every now and again. What happens to them?
Well, yeah, we're not saying anything new, which detracts from what we're saying.
Stories
Maybe
are out there already, right? We're not breaking this.
We're
So
yeah.
just centralizing it. Let's make it easy for you
They
to
come
find all
here
the
to learn
places
the
you
next
can be
hack.
malicious.
That's right.
All right. Well, good. We're here to help, gentlemen. That's how we do it. All right. So what's the American Water, the largest U.S. water and wastewater utility company, shut down some systems following a cyber attack? What happened
Yeah.
there?
So they, as usual, they don't give us as much information as I would like, but then once again, they don't want to give the bad guys information about what they saw. But they did detect that they were under attack, and that, in other words, they had anomalous network activity going on their network. In other words, the bad guys had gotten in. So I think quite like Colonial Pipeline, that caused them to shut down systems, control systems for the waterworks. And it only affected a percentage of all their customers. But this is, it's primary concern for CISA. I think there are 50,000 separate water treatment facilities in the United States. And they are small businesses, right? They're kind of public utility workers, doing stuff with water and dams and, adding chlorine and stuff like that. But it's not 24/7. They don't have a huge IT staff, very simplistic systems, and the usual office systems. So they've all got Windows and they've all got word processing and simple stuff like that. And then somebody comes along and says, we're going to save a lot of money. We don't have to deploy somebody to the field to check the height of the water. We're going to put a sensor out there and we're going to monitor it remotely. And then hey, why not, put a motor on the dam, the floodgates, so we can lift them and close them without having to deploy ourselves there. And then it's game over. The hackers will get to those if they want. So that's, in this case, they saw hackers, no damage done, but in just being cautious, they shut down access to those systems, meaning they don't have access to those systems. So it's going to disrupt services for people.
Well, it's like, and you don't know with that kind of access, they could dump poisons into the water, or they could just open up the spillways and Shazam, everybody downstream is underwater, right? So, I mean, this is actually the plot from our 2011 novella, right? Oh my God, that was real, So, but yeah, that's pretty
There has been
crazy.
a case of a disgruntled former worker for a wastewater treatment plant in Australia after he left, did something that basically disgorged wastewater into the river.
Oh,
And so there's like the first example of this being done. There's another one where somebody increased the chemical concentration of something to an unhealthy level. I forget, it wasn't chlorine, it was something else.
yeah. I mean, if you get chlorine, the concentration too high, it would kill you.
Yeah.
A
But
little bit's okay, but I mean, if it's chlorine gas, it ain't gonna happen, So,
yes. But the nice thing about chlorine is the amount it takes to kill you, you cannot, stand being in your mouth. You would spit it up.
oh,
So
would you? Okay,
yes, you can't accidentally die from chlorine poisoning.
got it. Good to know. I don't think I would try that anyway. So,
I'm not testing that one.
no, I don't think so. We'll let
I
that one
will
go. I'll just
trust.
take your word on that. So.
I will trust, but not verify.
Yeah, right. You're on your
There you
own. So,
go.
and then we have my favorite one coming up because I use this service. Comcast Cable Communications reported, I'm reading this here, that over 237,000 users' data has been compromised. Happened in February. They didn't find out about it till July. And now the stories, here we are in October, and the stories are coming out. Like I was saying to Richard, I think the personal injury lawyers are going to be all over this one.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a class action lawsuit on this one. And it's funny because as much as I don't like Comcast as a cable provider, because there's just so many things they do wrong, right? But they finally got their act together. Their DNS works again, which was always the issue before. And I know the people who work in the security team there, and they're great, right? They see tremendous amounts of traffic every day, and they see every type of attack there is. So very strange that they missed this, and then of course that it took so long to let us know. Not a good thing.
Yeah,
230.
and we were debating as to the why, and of course, being a publicly traded company, I'm sure they had to notify the SEC, their stockholders. But I'm amazed at the story. I mean, it was just recently published, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's 6
the
months,
SEC,
7 months after the attack.
the SEC now requires like 72 hours to report. So, yeah, when did they report it? Yeah,
Yeah.
they do talk about the 8K filing here. I didn't read it, but we could dig deep into that. But 237,000, out of their 3 million some customers is a small segment of them. But if you're one of them, you'll know because you'll get a notification in the mail of that.
They've got to have more than 3 million customers. Is that all Comcast has? Or
That's
is
that's what I read. Maybe
I
not
think it's more like
including
30 million
Xfinity?
or so. Yeah, I
yeah,
think it's a big number.
Yeah, I would feel like that number is way small. Shoot, I feel like they got 3 million in Michigan,
Huh.
So
yeah,
that's interesting. I'm
yeah.
Googling
Good
that.
catch. Good catch.
Because
Thank you.
trust and verify once in a while, evidently.
That's right.
All right. So speaking of people or organizations or now countries doing interesting malicious type things, Ukraine went after the Russian media company VGTRK and shut
Yep.
that down. How
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
got to be interesting.
yeah. Of course, the only or the most prominent incident of cyber war going on is between Russia and the UK and Ukraine, and we get this. It gets confusing because obviously the Ukraine has a military, and who's capable of hacking, and Russia's got some really good hackers that have been hacking Ukraine, doing extensive damage. I think it's over 3 times they've shut down power in big swaths of Ukraine, and then of course NotPetya, the most damaging cyber attack in history, caused billions of dollars of damage. Started in Ukraine. It was an attack by the Russian GRU against Ukraine. Long story, but if you want to read about it, read Sandworm by Andy Greenberg. So here we have more of the tit for tat going on, and it could be Ukraine itself, or it could be hackers who happen to be in Ukraine, and Ukraine is host to a lot of hackers for good and bad. So basically, disrupting the television program on Putin's birthday, kind of thumbing their nose at him. Probably in a similar vein to some of the drone attacks that first started out attacking the Kremlin, and now have moved on, of course, to critical systems inside Ukraine. And so it's kind of, to me, it's all part of the same thing. They're fighting on multiple fronts, and they're going to try and embarrass the media in Russia, because of course, if you ever watch any of the clips, right, the media is just completely irresponsible. They deserve
Well, it's
whatever.
like watching Fox News then, right? So
Totally like Fox News, yeah.
or just Fox. I don't call it news.
Fox Entertainment.
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
That's
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
So definitely worth keeping an eye on Ukraine. The Ukraine State Service of Special Communications reports on this fairly frequently. They claim there are over 1,700 incidents registered the first half of 2024. So you can just imagine what it'd be like if you dug into this full time. It'd be crazy things to look after.
Yeah, well, and then Anonymous goes after the Russians from time to time too, and they bring them down. But they go up. They don't go after the state TV. They go after systems. So
Right. Yeah.
and those are the best hackers in the world, or at least probably pretty darn close to it.
And there was a case where a hacker group infiltrated the television stations and broadcast some not complimentary information. And this was
I can
right
only
before,
imagine.
right before the war broke out.
All right. All right. Got one more, Terry.
This next story is so right up my alley, and I better check my records here. I'm just kidding. So there's evidently a site that does AI generated porn that people are using to, have some fun with. We'll call it that for the
We'll leave it at
PG
that,
show.
right?
And that site got hacked, exposing all the twisted fantasies that people are putting in there. Is that what I just read?
Yeah. So the site, I don't even know how to pronounce this
I
because
think it's mushy.
Mushi or Muha. Muha
Okay.
AI. And since generative AI came about
Mhm.
in November of 2023, there've been a number of these, and it's an obvious use case, right? Pornography, quite often leads new commerce areas. And as a matter of fact, there's a story of a woman who created a virtual girlfriend experience, and after announcing it, the first month in business, she made $1.4 million. This was
Yeah,
early
porn
20.
sells. I mean, we did
Yep.
some studies on that. That's like the number one industry on the internet because everyone can quietly go in and get their yayas, you know. But
Yeah.
I got it. I mean, one time I was at somebody's house when they showed me the site. I was just curious. And within about 30 seconds, they were bombarded with emails from all these other porn sites that captured their URL, right?
Yep.
And that's the hazard is, boy, you get on that list and never get off, you know?
Or
So,
you get off all the time.
Well,
so this is so reminiscent of Ashley Madison that everybody's reporting on it, harks back to that time. And Ashley Madison, of course, was a matchmaking site for people who wanted to have affairs. So it's for married people who are trying to hook up on the site. And they were breached, and all of their
oh,
customers were revealed, email address.
oh boy, talk
All
about
of
divorce. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, caused a lot of trouble. That was a Canadian-based company. This one is revealing emails, yes, identities, yes, and the conversations they're having with the AI. In other words, they are describing the fantasies that they want to talk. It's just
Just
text, right?
gets better and better.
Yeah.
It sounds like this that could be our follow-up book, Richard. What do you think? Yeah.
And um, they ended up
Cyber
having
Stiletto 2.
Yes.
Electric Boogaloo. I like
Yeah. AI for you.
there we go. Yeah,
Oh
we'd have to have
God.
AI in a story. So, anyways, the people are looking at the files because it was released publicly, right? You can go grab these files if you're interested in that. But
and
you
see whatever
definitely,
you prompted, and it's tied to your email address, it looks like. And you're right
Oh
about Mua.
God. It
yeah.
just the divorce lawyers were like circling like buzzards on that,
Oh,
I'm sure, right?
or
Yeah.
politics.
Oh.
I'm sure everybody's searching for their political enemies in there,
Oh, yeah, that is some dirt,
their
man.
predilections, and now they're reporting that a lot of them are pedophiliac style, or what's the legal term for it? Child
They like little kids.
asm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So
I would just call them sick bastards, but I mean, that's probably not the official term,
I
right?
think
yeah,
in
but I
some of
think
these
everybody
articles
would
we're
know.
reading,
Yeah.
that's exactly what they are.
Shared
Yeah.
meaning is all we need for good communication, right? We just need to understand what you're talking about. And I
Uh,
think that summarizes it
And
nicely.
sick bastards. That's it. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. Sick bastards. We'll just call them that. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Excuse me as I battled through my flu here or whatever.
Uh,
So how's
ending
the
on a
book?
low note, Richard. Very
Yeah,
low.
very low note. Yes. So how's the book doing?
book's doing great. I just signed the contract with Wiley for Security Yearbook 2025. And as soon as we close down here, I've got a whole week schedule of writing that book.
Well, you can
Yeah.
knock it off in a week.
No. I get it all in my head,
Oh,
update all the chapters, and that, because I can't actually complete it until after January 1st because it's a yearbook, so it's got data on this year.
right.
So I'm gonna have all the hacks in it, all the acquisitions, all the funding, latest open source solutions. My newly announced Cyber 150 So I went through my data in the app that we maintain and just asked it for all the companies between 20 and 50 people that grew more than 15% in the first half of the year. So those
Hmm.
are the fastest growing, I'm sorry, 50 and 500 people. So the fastest growing mid-sized cybersecurity companies. And there were 226 that met that criteria. So I just took the
Wow.
top 150. And it's fun. I didn't warn anybody that it was coming out. So all the vendors are all of a sudden won an award and they didn't know about it. And they weren't planning on it. So it's kind of rude for me to do that, but I didn't want to talk about it and then have 150 vendors reach out and say, "How do we get on it? What do we do?"
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's gonna be a chapter in the book. So those 150 vendors get to be, immortalized in print.
And digitally too. Do you have a digital version of the book or just print?
So I don't, because the book has the directory in the back of this year it'll be all 4,000 cybersecurity vendors.
Wow.
And that is worth thousands, if not millions of dollars if you have that in a digital form.
Hmm.
So if I ever created a digital form, I wouldn't be in business selling access to my data because, all these hackers would have made it available for free probably.
Yeah.
I still
So anything else going on before we let you depart and begin your work for next year?
Yeah, I would just say that we appear to be out of the mini recession that we had in cybersecurity, or at least coming out of it rapidly, because everybody I've been talking to the last 2 weeks say it feels like, good times again. So kind of just a heads up to investors and or anybody who's listening who has not invested in security. Every day that goes by where you didn't buy that thing that you need, multi-factor authentication, EDR for your endpoints, is a day you just got lucky, right? You're building up this technical security debt, and you just got away scot-free with not having it for the last 6 months or a year or 2 years. You need it and you got to buy it. So the faster you buy it, the better. And now I think, people will start recognizing that they've got visibility into the future. Interest rate or inflation is down, hiring is up. Now's the time to think about solidifying your security state.